Test, test. Excellent. Welcome back to the Griffin's Nest Griffans. This is your hostess, Mithril Beata, and I am glad to have you back. It feels pretty good to finish the story, doesn't it? Even better to jump into the next one and see what happens next. Without further ado, let's get started. I've got a little bit more complete than that. Yeah, cool, excellent. Once again, your hostess here, Mithril Beata. Thanks for coming back. We are continuing on with Hocus Pocus 2. Over this past weekend, I had some time to jump into the story and read the first couple of chapters. I'm confident to say that we could easily get those first couple of chapters done within a reasonable amount of time. Without any further ado, let's get started. Even though I said that like twice already. Currently, you are listening to the latest from Raven's Gold. 2 days ago released, which would be at this point November 14th, 2022, when it was released. Medieval fantasy music, old magic, Celtic folk. I think it's going to do just fine for what we're about to get our beaks into. Am I right? Alright, without too much further ado, I'm going to... Nope, everything looks good. Alright, let me find the book. As we did before, I'm picking up with the book that we had before. And of course, starting out right there in the middle. A little bit more than the middle. That bookmark is where I stopped reading. It is more in the middle than it might seem. Alright, so, hello, bye-bye. Pokemon stickers fell out of the book. So, if you open up to page 203 of this copy, you'll find the first title is Witch Please. You'll see a picture of the front of Jacob Bailey High School as it stands in the year of 2018. Not too terribly long ago as of this video right now. And as you can see right here, there's an entire map of Salem itself. You can see the forest of where the witches had their home and just how close the homes of Max Tennyson, and Allison had their homes. I have already learned some fantastic things that I think are just fabulous. Can't wait to share them with you, but I won't spoil anything. Without too much further distraction, let's get into it. I'm going to turn the music down a little bit lower for you guys. Now remember, this is also first-person perspective. Okay? And what that means is, in the first book, we were reading from the perspective of an invisible narrator that was basically kind of omnipotent, able to see everything and conveyed how everybody felt. This story is from one individual's perspective, so anything that character knows, we know, unless a part of the story tells us otherwise. And sometimes that can happen. It's just, for the sake of consistency, they usually don't. That said, the first chapter of Hocus Pocus 2, Witch Please. 25 years later, Salem, 2018. I've never been so excited for a lecture about the Articles of Confederation. Swap? Travis asked me while we walked into the AP US History. We always switch seats in history during the class period close to Halloween. But not today. Today I have nothing to fear. I beamed at him. Nope, I said, a little too enthusiastically. I'm good. When he quirks an eyebrow, it disappears behind the thick green frame of his glasses. His brown eyes sparkle mischievously. He's wearing dark, skinny jeans and a red t-shirt with a demon-filled periodic table on it, and the words, Periodic Table of Elements. It's a very Travis t-shirt, and I'm very glad that he's not got on a costume. Though he's been wanting for weeks to dress up in his finest suit and come in claiming to be the second black president. I continue grinning like an idiot, so finally he shrugs, scratches at his dark hair, cut into a low fade, and heads to the third row. All around us, our classmates gossip, complain about the homework from last period, and check their Instagram and Twitter feeds. I slide my backpack off my shoulders and settle into my seat at the front of the class, taking out my textbook and class notes. I like sitting up front because it helps me focus. Travis prefers the back because it helps him sketch comics on his tablet undetected. But Travis is a generous soul, and every year since 7th grade, he's sacrificed his art for exactly one class period. He sacrificed his art for exactly, I almost reread that line. The history class that falls on or nearest to Halloween, when Salem tradition dictates that all history teachers drag out the tale of the Sanderson sisters, dust it off, and set it on fire in front of me like a convicted witch. But not this year. It feels like my academic career has been building up to this day. Late in the first quarter of my junior year, a day when the teacher will finally walk in and say absolutely nothing about the Sandersons, because that teacher is my dad. And my dad does not talk about the Sandersons in public. Ever. It's supremely weird to be related to any high school teacher, but this single period of talking about the Constitutional Congress instead of witches will make it all worth it. October 31st, 2018 will be the day I won't have to sit at the back of the class watching 30 of my classmates make fun of a story my parents and aunt truly believe. I won't have to spend 45 minutes dreading the tradition and then another 10 avoiding eye contact with my teachers because I can't bring myself to look enthusiastic about their version of the story. I think any version is ridiculous. I look around the room, relishing all that I see. The laminated poster of the United States is just what it always is, and as are the timelines that chronicle everything from Revolutionary War to the Civil Rights Movement. Just like last week and the week before, there's not a single Halloween decoration to be seen. The victory may seem small, but it is sweet. Dad walks in from the hallway and nods at me, but he doesn't say anything as he crosses his desk. Griffins, do you think you might know who her dad is? Let's keep listening. That's our rule. It's important to have ground rules when one of your parents grades your essays and goes bowling with your guidance counselor. He's wearing a tie-dyed bow tie, which is about as festive as he gets for Halloween. It's some kind of inside joke with my mom, I think, because she always gives him a dopey grin when he wears it. He sits at his desk to fiddle with something on his computer, and music comes on. It's Dad's ritual to play one rock song during passing period, to give students some privacy in their conversations. It's the kind of thing that earns him cool points from my peers, which makes me extra grateful that he's also not the kind of teacher known for unnecessary detentions, busy work, or puns. Today he's chosen Sympathy for the Devil, which is a bit on the nose, but I'll give him a pass for the holiday. He taps out to the beat with a pencil while he waits for the bell, and some strands of dark straight hair fall into his eyes. A few stragglers scuttle in, including Dracula and a bumblebee in dress code violating shorts. Oh, keep in mind, just like you might do at your school, these students are dressing up for the holiday. So that's what this character is referring to. Then in comes Isabella, not scuttling because Isabella Richards does not scuttle, in a flowing white top with draped sleeves and a pair of white skinny jeans. Her belt looks like it's made of gold coins or medallions, and her black corkscrew curls spiral out from beneath a golden laurel circlet. The bell whines and Isabella slides into the seat to my right, her messenger bag thudding as she tucks it under her desk. She shoves a round shield under her desk too. On its front, angry snakes from Medusa's screaming face. It looks like Isabella has made the thing from foam and tinfoil, which is a very Isabella thing to do. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, she says when I give her a quizzical look. Of course she is. I thought you weren't going to dress up, I whispered. I lean in towards her, and my plastic chair creaks. I doubt that Jacob Bailey High has seen a renovation since my parents were students here in the 90s. And the furniture is constantly reminding us that it won't last forever. Drama extra credit, Isabel tells me, adjusting the shield so it doesn't roll away. I glance back at Isabella and she gives me a I know it's dumb grin, but I find the whole thing kind of attractive. Isabella is both the last person who would ever need extra credit and the first person who will volunteer for it. She's also the kind of girl who helps freshmen find their classes on the first day of school, volunteers weekly at the nursing home in Marblehead, and still gets invited to more bonfire parties in a single summer than I have been in my entire life. It's not the fact that she does everything that makes her so impressive, but the fact that she genuinely seems to love everything she does. When she shows up, she's all in, whether she's crafting a Greek shield for extra credit or asking me about my day. I glance at Travis. I don't dress up for Halloween on principle today. I'm wearing black jeans and a plain black sweatshirt. Travis isn't dressed up either, for solidarity, but I know he's been planning his own costume for weeks and can't wait to bring it out for my mom's Halloween party tonight. My family's first ever Halloween party, which is going to be a real treat. Not. Travis is too busy sketching to have noticed me talking to Isabella. The song ends and my dad shuts his laptop and stands up. Happy Halloween, everyone, he says. Do you know what happened in October 1777? Isabella raised her hand. When she gets a nod from my dad, she says, "What about in October 1693?" There's a long pause as the class waits to see what my dad is going to say to this unexpected development. I'm staring at Isabella like she just murdered a puppy. It's an unspoken rule that there's no Sanderson sister talk in front of Mr. Dennison's classroom. Students think it's because he finds the whole thing ridiculous. What they don't know is that it's because the Sandersons, at least as my dad tells it, came back from the dead and tried to kill my Aunt Annie 25 years ago. Unsurprisingly, that took the sheen off the Sanderson story for him, though he's never talked about it outside of my family. I look from Isabella to my dad, waiting to see how he will react. "I didn't think you'd want to waste your time with that, Miss Richards," he said slowly. It's enough of a window that more hands shoot up. My classmates are clearly not as excited as I am about to hear some dude bro landowners who determined the fate of the fledgling nation. "Mr. Dennison, does this relate to the evolution of criminal justice in the autocratic state?" asked Cruella de Vil, stroking a stuffed Dalmatian in her lap. "Mr. Dennison, what do the Sanderson sisters say about misogyny and unmarried women in colonial America?" asked the pirate. "Mr. Dennison, Mr. Dennison." I fold my arms over my desk and rest my forehead against them, wishing I could sink through the speckled linoleum floor. So much for my 1 year respite from Sanderson talk. "What about Elizabeth Sanderson?" Isabella asked, her voice cutting clear and confident through the chatter. I turned my face towards her, forehead wrinkling. "Who's Elizabeth Sanderson?" "Elizabeth Sanderson," my dad's voice trails off, but not in a question. He's no longer weighing whether to answer, but how. "You've done your research, Miss Richards, as usual." Isabella watches him hopefully. I look past her to Travis, who is the only person I've shared my family's Sanderson story with since I got made fun of as a little kid. Everyone else has forgotten about Poppy Dennison's short-lived belief in witches, but not him. He has an eyebrow quirked as if to ask if I'm okay. I shrug and look back at my dad, who's carefully rolling up his sleeves. "Elizabeth Sanderson is an interesting case," Dad says. "She wasn't—" He catches himself. "People say that she wasn't a bad witch, or that if she was, she never brought any harm to Salem. Still, the trials came for her and her family the way that they came for so many innocent lives. It was because of Elizabeth's selflessness that her husband and daughter escaped with their lives. But she wasn't so lucky. It was a classic case of mob mentality, and she was far from the only victim." "Do you think that Elizabeth actually was a witch like her sisters?" Isabella asked. There's an arch tone in her voice. It's not like her to talk to teachers this way. "Seriously? Do you?" The question comes from, different person. "Seriously? Do you?" The question comes from Katie Taylor, a slim, pale girl with long blonde hair who sits in the very back of every class and watches for any sign of weakness, in students or in teachers, so she can pounce. "Which, please?" The class titters at Katie's joke, but nervously, since she's taking a swipe at Isabella, whom everyone likes. As upset as I am at Isabella, some part of me still has the urge to turn around and snap at Katie. "That's enough, Miss Taylor," said my dad calmly, still looking at Isabella. "It doesn't matter what I think," he tells her. "People were hunted down and killed for superstition. That much we know. That's a terrible thing and a terrible waste of life. But were all of them actually evil witches?" He shrugs. "Sometimes the world isn't as simple as we'd like it to be." But you know what is simple?" I blurt out, trying to save both him and Isabella. "The Articles of Confederation." Dad gives me a surprised look, as if he forgot I was here. We have rules, but one of those rules is that I'm not supposed to be snarky in class. But I'm sending him a lifeline here, and we both know it. Right, Dad says, straightening up. He strides to the whiteboard and picks up a marker. The last meeting of the Continental Congress happened in October 1777. A groan ripples through the classroom, but I'm willing to take the hit to my reputation. Katie Taylor is the daughter of Jay Taylor, the school principal, and the same guy who bullied my dad decades ago. Katie didn't get the nickname Tattletale Taylor for nothing. I'm sure my dad would be mortified if the whole school found out that he believes in ghosts and witches. Plus, my mom, who will be up for partner at her law firm soon, wouldn't be able to live it down either. And then there's me. I still have to get through 2 more years at Jacob Bailey High, and I'd really rather not do it while being called Ghost Girl or Witch Killer. I've got less than 2 years to work on my portfolio and my SAT scores, and the Sanderson sisters and local lore are not going to hold me back. Before I know it, I'll be a SCAD or RISD or NYU or another art school where I can focus on my photography and not spin my brain cells worrying about keeping the family secrets safe. I sit up straighter, lifting my chin a little as I do. I can feel Isabella studying me, but I ignore it. Dad's familiar handwriting staggers across the board, and I take calming breaths. Counting to 5 each time and willing my heartbeat to slow. I can't tell whether it's still pounding thanks to my dad's close call, or because I suspect that Isabella is mad at me for derailing her question. A question that replays in my head now. Isabella dressed as the goddess of wisdom and war, and she brought both into my dad's classroom on the worst possible day. That's the end of Witch Please. So, what have we learned so far? All right, so we've learned that this young person's name is Poppy Dennison. Poppy, Poppy. She is the daughter of Max Dennison himself, the young man we read about in the last story. He's now a teacher at the local high school. Poppy says that she's got 2 more years. From freshman to senior year, that tells me that she's at this point got to be a sophomore, 10th grade. If I'm seeing that right. I remember when I was a sophomore in high school, I wasn't thinking quite that much about what comes after high school. I was more focused on getting through day by day, honestly, and the tasks that were in front of me, and trying my best to get through them. Let's see, what else? So there seems to be a little bit of a bully in the back, with long blonde hair, thin, lithe, just like Jay Taylor, the young man that teased and bullied Max in the first book. If you don't recall, maybe this will help. Hollywood! Oh man, good times. Alright, let's see what else we learned. Allison is her mom, is Poppy's mom, and let's see, we've heard mention of Danny, Aunt Danny, as we know. Let's see, she was about 7 or 8 at the time. This is 25 years later. Danny would probably be about 32 or 33 years of age right now. And I'm guessing that Max and Allison are probably a little bit closer to 40. About my age, actually. As of right now. Maybe a year or 2 younger. Them, not me. Not that it matters. Let's see, what else we learned? Her best friend, his name is Travis. I'm getting the impression that he has dark skin. He is African American descent. And he wants to do something big and important. And I get that from the comment of Poppy saying his costume of being the second black president of the United States. It's pretty cool. Let's see. What else did we learn? Okay, that's it for right now. Nothing much else Oh, and then her friend, who is dressed up as Athena, the goddess of war, Isabella. She's cool. Alright. Gonna take a quick break. I'll be back in just a few moments. I'd like to encourage you to do some deep breathing yourself. Maybe grab a piece of water, stretch, and I'll see you in just a moment after this ad that you can ignore. And we are back. A few seconds delayed because Fireface is over here sitting on the mouse, trying to control it. She wants to get you. Alrighty, let's get back to the live scene, shall we? I'm trying something a little bit different here. Be sure to let me know what you think. The music is wonderful, and honestly, I can read through it. But lately I've been thinking, maybe I should try reading without the music so much. Well, while I'm actively reading anyway. If you have any thoughts on the matter, please let me know. Do you like having the background music while you listen? Or is it a little bit too distracting? How's the volume? Do we need a different kind of music? If you wanted to keep it, but you're just not jiving with this? Honestly, we're going to try that out today. Be sure to let me know. If you scroll into the profile, excuse me. I don't know if I've set it up yet, but basically I have an opinions box or a suggestion box on standby. I just can't remember if I put it actively in the profile yet. Anyway, regardless, Let me know what you think. Let's continue. All right. The next chapter is called Brick Coven. And what's that in the picture? You see a big slice of pizza. All right. Brick Coven. Travis almost tripped Captain America in his rush to catch me. At the lunch bell, I leaped up, thrown all my stuff into my backpack, and booked it out of my dad's classroom like Usain Bolt. In the crowd hall, I crammed my backpack into my locker, shut it, and twisted the lock just as Travis rests a hand on my shoulder, or on my arm. I can't look him in the eyes. I'm embarrassed by my dad and myself, and sometimes I wonder why Travis hangs out with me at all. Pops, you okay? He asks, pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. Yeah, I say sullenly, meeting his eyes. Lunch? Travis shakes his head. Maybe Isabella is letting her goddess get to her head a bit, he says. It's not her fault, I tell him. Travis has known how I feel about the Sanderson sisters for so long. He sometimes forgets that he's the only person outside my family who even knows the story. Poppy! Calls Isabella, jogging to catch up to us. She squeezes through a group of jocks, smiling and waving at them as she does, and affectionately pinches the shoulder of her biolab partner as she passes her by. Even in damage control mode, Isabella can't help fulfilling the peppy, friendly image everyone has of her. I groan, shutting my eyes for one brief moment and wishing I were anywhere but here. I'd never dreamed I'd be trying to avoid Isabella Richards. She finally reaches us and notices my arms are crossed and my mouth is set in a hard line. She studies my face. Did I do something wrong? She asks me, reaching out to touch my arm. I recoil automatically and then kick myself for the hurt look that passes over her face. I didn't mean to, but I also can't deny that I am a little mad at her. Why did she go so far after my dad like that anyway? Wasn't it obvious that he didn't want to talk about the Sandersons? I guess not. Poppy? She prompts, worried. I shake my head. It's a long story. Don't worry about it. Isabella chewed her lip, then nods. Well, can I buy you pizza to make up for it? Pizza? My one weakness. Travis and I brought, I say. No, I didn't, says Travis, shrugging and giving me pout. Excuse me, I apologize. I'm getting a little distracted because I'm getting a lot of phone calls, and let me just mute it for now. He shrugs as if to say, I can't wait. Excuse me. No, I didn't, says Travis, shrugging and giving me a put out pout. I narrow my eyes at him. Traitor. He shrugs as if to say I cannot possibly compare to pepperoni, but I catch the sneaky look in his eye as he glances between me and Isabella. He's been trying to get us to spend more time together so I'd make a move. But seriously? Now? Travis and I have an entire conversation with our eyes, but I'm having a separate one internally. Isabella's been hanging out with us every day since the school year started, and I have no idea why. She has friends from half a dozen clubs and teams and can bounce from cafeteria table to cafeteria table with ease. Our friendship so far has been light and fun and cruising along evenly. But if I take her up on a lunch today, I know I'll have to tell her about my biggest secret. Bigger, even, than having a crush on her. Travis leans over. She's our friend, he whispers. It's time. No, I say tightly. I don't want to. Free mozzarella, Pops, he whispers. Can't say no. I glare at him and then turn back to Isabella, who is looking at us both like we've lost it. Sure, I tell her, but I have opinions about mushrooms. We're allowed to go off campus for lunch, as long as we stay within a 5-block radius of our school. Most people skip Allegra's because it's on the edge of said radius, but that's exactly why Isabel likes it. It gives her a chance to get away from everybody else, and she says when she just wants, excuse me, let me try that sentence again. It gives her a chance to get away from everyone else, she says. when she just wants to read a book or not think about homecoming or her zillion other commitments. None of us owns a car, so it's not like we could have an off-campus lunch much farther. As we push through the school doors and onto the last October afternoon, we find a clear, sunny sky with crisp air that gives my lungs just the slightest icy tingle. It's a day for apple picking or pumpkin carving or mulling cider with whole spices. It's so pretty, in fact, that confessing my family's deepest, darkest secret shouldn't even be on the table. We make it a few blocks from school before any of us says anything, though Travis keeps giving me meaningful looks that I keep willfully ignoring. Finally, he clears his throat. So I found this summer course at Stanford for physics. Oh, says Isabella, no doubt eager to fill the silence. That's all the encouragement Travis needs, and he's off and running, telling her about all kinds of experiments they do and the qualifications of the teachers. And then Isabella tells us how much she loved Stanford when she took a campus tour there last summer. Finally, I step between them and decide to make a peace offering. I went to San Francisco a few years ago, I say, with my family. Yeah? Isabella looks really interested to hear more, but she also looks apologetic. She's still trying to make up for making class noticeably awkward for me. Yeah, I say. We drove up to Muir Woods. The redwoods were amazing. I bet I shot 15 rolls of film on that trip. You're in for photo class? Isabella asks, slowing her pace ever so slightly to stare at me. I hesitate, but then I continue walking, and she keeps up. I'd kind of hoped she'd notice my pictures in the Chaussettes, our monthly student paper, but the photo credits are smaller than the bylines. Anyway, part of the drawing to visual art was the chance to be behind the lens. Yeah, I tell her. I love it. What do you take pictures of? I shrug and take a second to think. Football games, science fairs. But those things are to show schools that I'm versatile, not to feed some deep artistic need. I like to find small details that are really beautiful, but that most people would walk right past and not even notice. I finally say. When she looks confused, I add, like peeling paint? That's my jam. Or the way shadows slant off driftwood, or the veins in leaves when sunlight passes through them. My teacher says I need more range, though, so art schools will look at me. Portraits and self-portraits and landscapes and stuff. I'm working on it. And you developed them yourself in a real darkroom? She asks. We hang a right at the corner and walk under a row of nearly naked trees. I nod. I'll show you how sometime. Watching the developer work on the paper, knowing its thin layer of silver that's making the image appear, it's like magic. I meet Isabella's gaze, and something in her expression makes me blush. I'd like that, she says. She's watching me, studying me, like there's something about my face she's never noticed before. I realize Travis has purposely fallen back. Sly devil. We arrive at Allegra's, the tiny restaurant with its roof curve sheet metal that looks like it's seen better days. The last time the place was renovated was just after my parents graduated. I've only ever been here a handful of times, but it's usually not that busy. I hold up the flimsy door and let Isabella and Travis file through and into the warm space covered with cobwebs and fuzzy fake spiders. At the counter, people dig into pizza pies and loudly chatter. Lucky for us, there's an empty booth in the back that we quickly occupy. As Isabella slides on the worn red leather next to me, her expression shifts and she seems to come out of her thoughts. So, when are you finally going to get on Insta? I shake my head. It's not really my thing, I say. When you use film, you only get a few chances to get the image right, you know? You have to work for it. Being able to take 1,000 shots at the same thing and use filters without really understanding how contrast or composition works, it seems like cheating. Isabella's smirking a little, and I realize she's probably on Instagram herself, because why else would she ask? My stomach stinks, but not actually cheating, obviously, I add. I mean, it's cool, it's just different. I glance at Travis, but he's too busy sketching a thumbnail of Iron Man on his tablet to rescue me. When I look back at Isabella, she's tapping her finger against her bottom lip absently. Her lipstick is lilac matte and somehow hasn't smudged. Let's see. Isabella, it's so good to see you, cries someone with a thick Italian accent. Allegra herself hurries up and gives Isabella a hug and a kiss on each cheek. She's a slight elderly woman with wispy white hair and a stained red apron. Isabella really is friends with everyone. Allegra waves to Travis and me, wishes us both a happy Halloween, and calls a waitress over to take our order. Then, before I know it, my mouth is full of tomato sauce and toppings, extra mushrooms. Travis practically inhales a slice of pepperoni pizza. So, I'm sorry about class today, Isabella says, finally redirecting the conversation to the sensitive topic at hand. I knew she wouldn't let me off this easily. Oh, yeah, I sigh. Well, it's just my family has a lot of history with the Sandersons. It's complicated. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm just genuinely interested in the Sanderson sisters. And I just thought, your dad being a history teacher and all, he might know more about them. But I guess it was kind of touchy? The city owns the house, I say. But my Nana used to be the museum manager, back when there was still a big budget for running the place. After the museum closed down, she held on to the keys. Your grandma used to work at the Sanderson house? Isabella lights up. No way! Poppy, why didn't you ever mention this before? She examines my face for a second. But I'm guessing that's not the complicated part. I look to Travis for courage, and he nods. It's time Isabella goes from new friend to ride or die friend. Before I know it, I'm spilling my family's secret to my school's class president, homecoming queen, and debate team captain. Isabella listens, nodding and looking sympathetic as I start to tell her about my aunt and my parents, and their weird story about a Halloween night 25 years ago. I also can't help looking over my shoulder in paranoia as I share their tale. So, I guess my dad wants to impress my mom. They weren't dating yet, remember? And he lights this candle. Isabella gasps, No! Yeah, I hesitate and check to make sure Allegra and her staff are otherwise occupied. I drop my voice to a whisper, and the Sanderson sisters reappeared. Which ones? Isabella asks. I think it's an odd question because everyone knows the three Sanderson sisters. But then I remember her asking about Elizabeth. As with everything, it seems like Isabella really has done her homework. Winifred and Sarah and Mary, I say. And apparently, Sarah's real thirsty, says Travis, still sketching. It's weird to talk about the Sanderson witches as if they're distant relations. I study Isabella, wondering whether she thinks I'm making all this up. Or worse, if she thinks my family is insane and going to go back and tell her mom to oppose my mom's promotion. Isabella looks sincerely interested. So then what happened? She asks. My parents and my aunt tried to get my grandparents to help, but they didn't believe them. So instead, my dad lured the witches into the arts annex and trapped them in the kiln. Isabella put a hand to her mouth. No! Yeah, my mom turned it on, excuse me. I rolled my eyes. Because she's a BAMF, chimes in Travis. Isabella laughs. Are you wondering what a BAMF is? That's not for me to say. Not right now. I can't help smiling. I admit that even if I don't believe the story myself, that part about my mom always makes me a little proud. I glanced around the restaurant again, just a quadruple check no one heard one bit of my family's story. A mom and her two boys are seated on the other side of the room, arguing about who will be getting the last slice pizza. Others seated around us are engrossed with each other to notice us. are too engrossed with each other to notice us. I ease up and turn my attention back to my friends. Anyway, the witches survived, I say in a low voice, and they busted down the door. Then they kidnapped my Aunt Danny and made a potion so that they could steal her youth or something. But my dad drank it and instead rescued her. And then the sun came up and the witches went up in smoke and dust. I think they turned to stone before or something. But that's the story. And my dad promised me that he wouldn't talk about it in front of other people, for my own sake. And that's why in class, when you brought it up, I was quick to shut it down. Sorry. There's a long pause and I inwardly cringe. Isabella has been patiently listening the whole time. But how could she possibly look at me the same way after a story like this? It's ridiculous, right? I ask, trying to make it clear as possible that I don't share my family's disillusions. 3 of your family members would disagree. Oh, excuse me. 3 of your family members would disagree, says Travis, still not looking up from his tablet. Isabella just stares at me. So that's why the kiln is broken? She finally asks. I relax. She hasn't blatantly made fun of me yet, which I appreciate. She's even given me a chance to change the subject and calm my nerves for a little while. That's what my parents and aunt say, I reply. I guess the school used to offer classes for ceramics and sculpture and stuff. You can blame the denizens for the lack of pottery in your life. Isabella smirks. I'll let my dad know. She doesn't usually talk about her dad, the first black mayor in Salem, because he's the only thing plenty of people want to talk to her about. She takes another bite of pizza and another sip of soda, then says, Well, thank you for sharing that with me, Poppy. The air seems to crackle between us. I don't realize how close she leaned in until she scoots back in the booth. So, do you believe them? Your parents and your aunt. I mean, they're my family. I sigh. I feel like I have to believe them, but also, really? Isabella laughs. Yeah, I know how that feels. I like that you try to see everything from all sides. She looks like she's going to say something else, but she turns to Travis. You've been awfully quiet, Trav. What do you think? He adjusts his glasses and keeps his eyes on the tablet. There's no scientific basis for any of it, he says, except maybe drugs. The candy could have been laced with LCD or LSD, or maybe they made up the story and told it so many times they started to believe that it was real. He glances up at me. No offense, Pops. I wave it off. None taken. I turn to Isabella. Anyway, you coming tonight? How is your mom okay with inviting our entire class to your house for a Halloween party this year? Oh, excuse me, it's Travis talking. How is your mom okay with inviting our entire class to your house for a Halloween party this year? Travis cuts in. I thought, she's spooked by the holiday. I turn to him. She insists she's just happy it's been a whole 25 years since the Sanderson incident, I say, putting the phrase in air quotes. What I don't tell him is that I know there's something else up my mom's sleeve. I can just feel it. Well, I wouldn't miss it. Isabella gives me a smile that makes my stomach flip a little. There's no way I'd leave you hanging. It's not fair that you're so nice. I take another slice of pizza. People aren't supposed to be smart, popular, and nice. What's your weakness, Isabella Richards? Her smile flags a little, and for a second she looks mystified, but then is gone. Halloween candy, she says, matter-of-factly, then grins and takes another sip of soda. Dudes, hate to break it to you, but we need to wrap it up, says Travis, or we're going to be late for class. I look for our waitress, craning my head from this and that as Travis and Isabella quickly finish off what's left of the pizza and their sodas. If I recall correctly, I think we can just pay at the register. Isabella digs in her pocket for her wallet, and I remember she's treating us. It's all good, I say, reaching for my own wallet. No, I insist, she says, laughing. It's the least I can do. That's when Katie Taylor's perky face emerges from the top of the neighboring booth. She's recently dyed the bottom layer of her long blonde hair with streaks of blue and turquoise, and when she ties it up, as she has today in a fishtail braid, she looks like a mermaid. The kind that lures people out of the sea and viciously drowns them. I'm coming to your mom's Halloween house party tonight, too, Poppy, she says. The smile she flashes me is toothache sweet, and I feel like all the air in the restaurant has evacuated the premises. Wouldn't miss it, she adds. Katie steps out of the booth along with Ginny Lou, her best friend, and soccer team co-captain. Aw, how cute, Katie sneers, looking at Isabella. It's good to see the loser inner circle widening. She regards me for 1 second. Oh, one more witch, and it's a coven. She and Jenny turn on their heels and go to the register to pay, whispering and giggling the whole time. Jenny tosses her silky ombre hair as she follows Katie through the front door of the restaurant, where 5 other members of the soccer team, all in the same fur-lined shoes and oversized cashmere sweaters, have just arrived with steaming coffee. I'd wager pumpkin spice lattes. Neither Katie nor Jenny bothers to look back at us, which somehow feels worse than as if they had. I think of my family and how hard I've worked to hide this different piece of their lives. And now I've gone and told Katie Tattletale Taylor. It's never long before Katie finds new ways to make someone's life a complete nightmare. What have I done? Poppy? Isabella watches me worried. Who cares what Katie thinks? She couldn't hold a candle to you on her best day. A black flame candle? Travis chimes in. We both look at him. I glance over at Katie and her minions as they pile into Katie's car. Do you think they heard us? Well, this is a dumpster fire, says Travis. I groaned and dropped my forehead on the table. I'm not going, I tell the table. Travis touches my shoulder. Pops, you can't miss your own party. You mean my mom's party, I correct him. This whole thing was her idea, which I totally don't get, since she never even talks about Halloween except to warn me about Walking Dead witches. And now our whole class has been invited, and my dad invited all the teachers and school staff, and Katie's going to be there with my family secret up her sleeve, ready to perform a terrible magic trick in front of everyone I know. A little ramble kind of makes me think of anxiety getting away with Pops, don't you agree? Pops, breathe, says Travis. I mean, if she really doesn't want to go, maybe we can do something else, suggests Isabella. Nah, says Travis. She'll come around. I sigh and pick myself up. You're right. I'm going to pull it together, and I'm going to go to this party. And I'm going to ignore Katie for the rest of my life, I say. Which, please, is right, says Travis, smiling and nodding. That's my girl. Isabella gives me a concerned look, then picks something off the pizza tray and offers it to me. Mushroom? She says hopefully. Isabella gives me a concerned look. Oh, wait, I already read that part, excuse me. I snorted the idea that a soggy mushroom can fix the situation. I'm stuffed, I tell her, sitting back up, but thanks. I guess you could say your stomach doesn't have mushroom, quips Travis. Isabella and I both turn to him. We start laughing at the same time. Poppy, you're a saint for putting up with this, Isabella says. I'll take that as a compliment, I say. Hey, says Travis, flashing a smug smile. If you got it, haunt it. Oh, and that is the end of the second chapter, Brick Coven. And that's exactly where I'd stop this weekend. So, unless I find time to read ahead before our next reading together on here, then it's going to be brand new to me. I don't know which way it'll go at this point, but I do got to get on. Excuse me. Welcome back, and I hope that you've enjoyed this first reading of Hocus Pocus 2 and the book. And I hope to see you all next time here on the Griffin's Nest. Nothing really else to say. Just thanks for coming and see you soon. Remember, take care of yourself. When you start to feel anxious, remember 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Poppy is a very relatable character when it comes to anxiety and seeing things more realistically and logical than others, despite where you come from, where your family comes from. So let's remember that today. See you soon. Bye 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 bye.